Warren Buffett and the late Charlie Munger are synonymous, not just with value investing, but more broadly have long been figureheads for the financial industry. Now, at the passing of Munger, the business world and its leaders are reacting to the loss of a legend. Let's bring in NPR Business Desk correspondent David Gura to discuss more. David, good to see you here. Thanks for taking some time. Really an outpouring of interest, of course, in all things Charlie Munger and what he represented to the financial community. What was your experience with Munger, and what do you think his legacy will be?
Like so many, I was someone who listened to his words, pithy as they were. He had a real economy of speech, and I think that was so appealing to investors, to journalists, to his colleagues. There was something deeply rooted about the wisdom that he was espousing. I was struck by something you quoted there from the Coca-Cola CEO just a moment ago, saying that he was innovative. A lot of the stuff, it wasn't that innovative. It was, again, deeply rooted and so core to how I think a lot of people think that they would approach their lives. And he was able to sort of make that manifest in the world of business as well. So much of what you've been talking about, I think, is what's so appealing to people in business. He was no nonsense. He was pithy. He wasn't shy about expressing his own opinion. And there was something about that marriage between the way that he lived his life and the way that he approached business that I think makes him stand out, makes him appealing, makes him somebody that I think other business leaders would want to emulate, and probably would do well to emulate if they could follow in his footsteps in that way, to not make things overly thick and confusing with jargon, but to be clear and clear-sighted about what his objectives are and what he thought would be successful and what would work.
You know, it's interesting to me because in talking about Charlie Munger, not as much of a household name as Warren Buffett, which I think is kind of interesting, right? That, like, in talking to people, just people outside of our little business world about Charlie Munger, not everybody necessarily knew who he was. So it's interesting that he is such a towering figure within business and thought of alongside Warren Buffett, and yet he did not necessarily seek out a very high profile.
No, Julie, everyone with whom I spoke said that he was not somebody who enjoyed the spotlight or liked to be in it. But I think we can learn a lot from the way that the two of them saw each other, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And that was, of course, no better exemplified than when they were on stage together at the annual shareholders meeting. People came to see both of them. And, they were, of course, eager to hear what Warren Buffett had to say about any number of things. But I think everyone was queued up waiting for what the kind of short, concise response was going to be, what Charlie Munger was going to add on the heels of that. And so many people with whom I spoke as I prepared my obituary for NPR said, they were really sounding boards for one another. And even in this very advanced age, they spoke daily. The first phone call that Warren Buffett often made was to Charlie Munger in California. So this relationship really continued. And as I'm sure Lawrence Cunningham emphasized, he emphasized to me, that power that Charlie Munger had to say no, or to encourage Warren Buffett to reevaluate something that he thought might be smart or wise, was really powerful. And so, yes, I think that when you look at them from kind of a public vantage, no, he didn't have the kind of public profile or personality that Warren Buffett did, but the two of them saw each other as a real partnership, really relied on one another. And I think that at this moment, kind of looking at the role he played, it's really critical to see that, he might not have had the public presence, but he was arguably just as powerful in terms of what he was doing behind the scenes and what he was doing in that business relationship with Warren.
Dave, we're all journalists here, and part of our role is to hold truth to power. Now, one of the most powerful people at Berkshire is pretty soon Greg Abel. And not a lot of investors or the public know anything about him. How important is it that Berkshire starts to put him out there, that we get to know him more? And in addition to him, Todd Combs and the other folks managing that investment portfolio.
I think it's critical, and I think we'll see that happen largely in the way that Berkshire has operated for these many decades. And that is, I think that shareholder meeting will be important. I think of course, so much is made of the fact the website hasn't been updated. News is conveyed from this company in much the same way it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think that's likely to continue. But, I did notice, as I'm sure you did over these recent years, more of an emphasis on what succession was going to look like, what this level of continuity was going to be like. This is, I think Charlie Munger saw it this way. I think that Warren Buffett sees it this way as a family. Yes, a very, very large family of people who have gotten incredibly rich as a result of investing in this company. But I think the approach is largely going to be in line with that. There have been opportunities at recent shareholder meetings to meet some of the successors that you mentioned. I think obviously they're going to take more prominent roles as all of this carries on. But I don't expect it to be done in any sort of flashy way. You say you're going to get out there more. I don't expect, a bevy of interviews or a different way of looking at the profile of those who are running this company. But I do think there is this recognition that continuity is key here, continuity about the mission and the ethos of this company. And that's going to be conveyed, I think, in much the same way that it's been conveyed over the last 40, 50 years.
Well said. NPR Business Desk correspondent David Gura, thanks so much. We appreciate it.